Welcome back, everyone, to the old gang and the new friends that have joined us during the break. Welcome to the best Batman channel on YouTube. Of course, we have to continue the history of the Batman comics where we left in the last episode of the Bronze Bat. At the very end of the Bronze Age, the Crisis on Infinite Earths changed everything in the DC universe, but something else happened that was really important for Batman. It was The Dark Knight Returns, the iconic, the legendary, the most influential piece of Batman work ever to be printed. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story, but for those of you who are not, let me tell you all about Frank Miller's masterpiece. This story takes place in the future, not the real future, but one of many possible futures. Gotham City is in the middle of a devastating heatwave, and to make things worse, there's this new gang of criminals called the Mutants who are terrorizing the city. Commissioner Gordon is about to turn 70 and is ready to retire, while Bruce Wayne is in his 50s and stopped being Batman almost 10 years ago. After all these years, Gordon and Bruce are good friends and Gordon knows the truth about Batman. Over the years, Bruce has grown a mustache, he stopped talking to Dick Grayson, and something happened to Jason Todd many years ago. Robin doesn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, in Arkham, Harvey Dent's face is restored and he is released as the doctors believe he has been cured. Dent seems to be sane and most people believe he is normal, except for Commissioner Gordon, who knows something is wrong. Bruce, on the other hand, believes in Harvey Dent. Where have we heard that one before? However, Bruce has his own issues, as he keeps dreaming of the first time he fell to the cave and came face to face with the Bat. Bruce awakes from his nightmare and goes to the Batcave, the same place that he abandoned after Jason's death. That was the reason why Bruce stopped being Batman, but after all these years, it becomes clear that this was a bad decision. Bruce tried to hide and repress his most basic instinct, but it is slowly coming back. Bruce is not even fully aware of his actions, as he shaves his mustache and doesn't even remember doing it. Surprisingly, and after all these years, Alfred is still around, serving Bruce. At this point, Alfred would be at least 70 and he is already walking around with a cane. And yet, Bruce keeps the old butler working around the mansion for him. Apparently, Alfred is the only one in this future who cannot choose retirement. A few days later, Harvey Dent goes missing and Commissioner Gordon sends the entire GCPD looking for him. At that moment, a man with his head full of bandages joins the old Two-Face gang and shows them Two-Face's coin. And just in case, no, this is not Hush. In the meantime, Bruce watches the Mark of Zorro, and the memories of the death of his parents come back to him. Now, the memories are more intense than ever, and combined with the news about the rampaging crime in Gotham, Bruce can no longer keep hiding the truth, and the Bat breaks free. The heat wave comes to an end when a dark, heavy cloud brings thunderstorm and rain to Gotham City, announcing the return of the Dark Knight. Batman is back on the streets, fighting crime, saving innocents, but his methods are now more brutal than ever before. That night, Batman saves a young girl called Carrie from some mutants, making a big impression on her. The people of Gotham are all shocked to learn that the mythical legend of the Batman has returned. When the Joker, who is locked in Arkham, learns about Batman's return, his madness comes back to him after many years. Commissioner Gordon reactivates the bat signal and together with Batman they start looking for Harvey Dent. Batman comes across some members of Two-Face's gang and they tell him about the plan of their new leader. The man intends to attack the Twin Towers and Batman gets ready to stop him. When the time comes, Batman confronts the enemy, who is flying on a heavily armed helicopter. The confrontation in mid-air ends with the two of them inside a building, while the helicopter explodes in the distance. Batman finally confirms that the criminal is Harvey Dent, and he understands that even if his face has been restored, the madness has taken over him. And the sad part is that Batman sees himself reflected in Harvey Dent. Gordon's days as commissioner are about to end, but before leaving, he wants to end the threat of the mutant. After capturing and interrogating some of them, Batman learns that the mutants have made a deal with someone from the army who has provided them with military weaponry. Considering the danger of the situation, Batman decides it's time to play with the big toys. Meanwhile, Carrie Kelly was so impressed with Batman that she made her own Robin outfit and went out to the streets to fight evil on her own way. When she spots a group of mutants, she follows them to their leader, who is organizing the gang and giving them the military weapons to take Gotham by storm. At that moment, Batman shows up in the Batmobile, but this is not like a normal Batmobile. This one is a giant tank, filled with non-lethal weapons that Batman uses to strike the mutants and take them all out of action. When only the mutant leader remains, Batman descends to fight him, but things don't go well for him, as the mutant breaks his arm and beats him badly. The mutant leader is about to eliminate Batman, but Carrie jumps in and saves Batman. This was the first time. The two of them return to the Batmobile and flee, while the police arrive at the scene and arrest the mutants. Carrie takes care of Batman until they arrive at the Batcave. Once there, Batman allows her to become the new official Robin. In the time that takes Bruce to heal his wounds, the US President tells Superman that he needs to deal with Batman. When Batman has healed, he comes up with a plan to take down all the mutant gang for good. He sends Carrie on a mission to lure all the remaining mutant members to a specific place, and then he asks Gordon's help to take the mutant leader out of prison. Batman leads the mutant leader to a mud pit, where all the mutant gang has been gathered. There, Batman beats the mutant leader, this time using a different tactic from the previous fight. Being more precise and less reckless, Batman shows everyone how easily and brutally he can defeat the mutant leader. This display of power caused all the mutant gang members to become the Sons of Batman, a group dedicated to fight crime. Unfortunately, as this happens, James Gordon retires from the GCPD, and Ellen Yindel becomes the first woman police commissioner. Her first action is the arrest warrant against Batman. With the new commissioner, Batman has no support from the GCPD, and to make things worse, the Joker has been allowed to leave Arkham and appear in a late-night TV show. Batman tries to learn more about Joker's plan, but he is visited by Clark, who has come to Gotham to tell Bruce to give up, as requested by the US President. Of course, Bruce doesn't listen to the warning. Meanwhile, the Joker blows an entire building with a toy bomb, and soon he is ready to appear on TV. Batman gets ready to stop the Joker on the TV set, but Commissioner Yindel has prepared a whole team to stop Batman when he shows up. The Joker comes to the stage and using Joker venom in his lipstick, he kills a woman. Then, he releases another of his toy bombs among the audience, spreading more Joker venom and murdering everyone. As this happens, Batman fights Commissioner Yindel and dozens of police officers who are preventing him from getting to the Joker. When Batman finds himself outnumbered and exhausted, he is saved by Robin. This was the second time. A few hours later, Gotham's governor is found mind-controlled and babbling about starting the nuclear war. Batman knows this is part of Joker's plan, and after meeting with the old Selina Kyle, Batman learns of the upcoming plans of the Madman. The Joker's grand finale will take place at the county fair, where he intends to spread his venom and murder hundreds of innocent victims. Batman and Robin arrive in time to stop the Joker, and while Robin fights Joker's henchmen, Batman chases the criminal through the House of Mirrors and into the Tunnel of Love. In the fight, Joker ends up badly injured by a couple of batarangs, one of which goes into his eye. Batman corners the Joker inside the tunnel, where the Joker stabs Batman a couple of times, but the Dark Knight grabs the criminal and snaps his neck, leaving him only paralyzed. The Joker is frustrated with the outcome, but he will not be denied the last laugh. He knows the police is coming for them both, and with all his strength, he breaks his neck completely and commits suicide so that the police can find his body next to Batman. Commissioner Yindel and the police find Joker's corpse and they come to the conclusion that Batman killed him. Batman decides that it's better to burn the Joker's body, and then he makes his way out of the tunnel, fighting the police. After a brief struggle, he gets out and is saved once again by Robin. This was the third time. Batman becomes wanted by the law for murder, and because the news are all talking of how Batman is now a killer, the sons of Batman start killing criminals as well. While all this happens, the Soviet Union, which was Russia back in the 80s, decide to attack the US with a massive nuclear warhead. Superman does his best to stop the bomb, but the thing still hits American territory in the desert. The electromagnetic field created by the explosion causes all the lights and batteries to stop working across the country. Gotham City is also affected, and things go very wrong when everyone in the streets turns violent and chaos spreads across the city. After recovering from the fight with Joker, Bruce learns what has happened and goes straight to the heart of Gotham. Because cars and machines are not working under the electromagnetic field, Batman takes his best horse and rides on the streets until he meets the Sons of Batman and tells them to help him restore peace and order to Gotham. Meanwhile, Superman has a hard time recovering from the nuclear explosion, but with enough solar energy he recovers completely. With Superman back in action, the US government has only one concern: to bring down Batman, and for this reason, they send Superman to do the job. The Man of Steel gives Bruce the chance of choosing the place where they would fight, and Bruce chooses Crime Alley, the place where everything started. With a short time left to prepare for the battle, the US government evacuates Crime Alley, and Batman prepares a series of tricks against Superman. The day finally comes, and Batman is ready to confront Superman, using an iron armor and all the tricks under his sleeve. Batman strikes first, using missiles and the Batmobile, but they are useless. Superman then approaches Batman, and the Dark Knight uses sonic devices, electricity, and his own suit to try to defeat Superman without success. However, everything changes when Oliver Queen shows up and shoots the kryptonite bomb designed by Batman. Superman is finally weak enough, and Batman beats him to a pulp, but before he could give the final blow, Bruce gets a heart attack and dies. At that exact moment, Alfred destroys Wayne Manor, and as he watches the place blow up, he also dies. Bruce Wayne is dead, and now the world knows he was Batman. At the funeral, Clark remains until almost everyone has left, except for a nun. As he is leaving, he hears a faint heartbeat and learns that Bruce just faked his death and that the nun is in fact Robin. Clark chooses to let it be, and once Bruce is out of the grave, he returns to the cave, where Robin and the Sons of Batman join him in his endless war against crime. That was The Dark Knight Returns. It's always been called the best Batman story ever, but I disagree. I could say so much about this story, but because I don't want to make this too long, I'll just mention the most important elements. The story as a whole is not outstanding. The first issue is the best part of the entire series. This issue introduced the idea that Bruce fell to the cave as a kid for the first time in history, and it has been used ever since in every Batman story. There's also the moment when Batman returns for the first time in 10 years, and it's very symbolic as the heat wave is replaced with the thunder and rain. Batman gets back in action and he feels alive once again. That is absolutely real because it's really hard to stay away from doing what you love. I should know. The final confrontation with Two-Face is also great, as we understand that just like the enemy, Batman has also fallen into a deep madness. The second issue has some things I don't really like. The new Batmobile, for example. This is not just a car. This is a tank, and every tank is designed for war. Even if it doesn't have lethal weapons, Batman uses the thing to blow the mutants away. The original Batmobile was created as the vehicle that Batman uses to move around Gotham. In this version, it's just a very dangerous weapon. But besides that, in the second issue, Batman becomes much more brutal. He takes down criminals with more violence than necessary. And then there's the fight with the mutant leader. At first, he is almost killed and has to be saved by Robin. In the rematch, Batman takes the mutant to a mud pit, where he defeats him in a very savage way, in front of all the mutant gang, just to show how much of a badass he is. In the third issue, Batman fights the Joker, and this one is not so bad. What I don't like, because I don't think makes any sense, is that Joker was paralyzed after Batman broke his neck, and still he managed, somehow, to break his own neck completely and kill himself. For someone who was paralyzed, that was a bit too much. And finally, there is the fourth issue, which is by far the worst of the series. This one is divided in two parts. First, the nuclear attack on the US, and second, the Batman vs Superman fight. I think it's very strange how the story can go from one point to the other. It feels forced. The entire country was just devastated by the nuclear attack. There was no food or shelter and it was all chaos. And then, even in this situation, the US president decides it is more important to deal with Batman. Instead of sending Superman to help people or sending him to end the international conflict, the US president decides that the Man of Steel is more useful taking down the one man who is actually doing good in Gotham City. Like, really? And so we get to see the fight of the century, and of course, Batman wins, by far. I understand why this needed to be part of the story, but I still don't like it. It exists just for shock value. This is the first time in history that Batman actually beats Superman, something that, by normal logic, shouldn't be possible. But Frank Miller presented the right situation for Batman to win. And the reason why I don't like this part of the story is because it started what people call the Bat God complex. Every time you read a story where Batman beats impossible odds, like when he defeated the entire Jokerized Justice League, or when he used the Hellbat armor to fight Darkseid, those are moments inspired by the Batman vs Superman fight in The Dark Knight Returns. And what's worse is that this is the moment that some fans used to say that Batman can win any fight with enough prep time. It shouldn't be like that. Batman is amazing, yes. Batman is the best damn hero, yes. But he is not invincible. He is a crime fighter and a detective, and he can't win every fight. He is still human. But because this story exists, thanks to Frank Miller, people get the wrong idea about Batman. In fact, let's talk about the back history of The Dark Knight Returns. Back in 1985, Frank Miller was best known for his amazing run in Daredevil with inker Klaus Janson. The two of them reinvented Daredevil and they got together once again to make a different kind of Batman. Miller was also good friends with Mike W. Barr. Remember from the last Bronze Bat episode, Mike W. Barr created the book called Batman and the Outsiders, where Batman was always more violent than necessary. So, if Frank Miller was friends with Mike Barr, then it's obvious why Miller's Batman is so savage and brutal. Frank Miller wanted to have an old Batman, because he was getting old, and he didn't want to be older than his favorite hero. And so Miller made Batman in his 50s, as this really big, badass, brooding mass of muscles that is like an unstoppable force of nature. This was something that was never seen before, and a few people didn't like it. Some legendary Batman creators like editor Julius Schwartz and Bob Kane himself didn't like this version of Batman, because they thought this Batman looked more like a horror movie villain than the Batman. The new Robin, Carrie Kelly, was also a bit disappointing. She was the third Robin in history and the first female Robin. In the story, Jason Todd had died and Carrie became the new Robin, just by cosplaying. In the past, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd had to go through intense training before becoming Robin. Carrie simply showed up, saved Batman from the mutant leader, and bam! She was the new Robin. Because she wasn't trained or anything, she was not good in combat and was in danger many times throughout the story, but for some reason, she saved the old Batman 3 times in the story. Which leads me to another issue, Batman's abilities. Because he is old, he is not as precise and he gets tired really quick. There are specific parts of the story where Batman succeeds simply by getting lucky. It's a bit strange and I really don't like that. So with all that said, I wonder why people still think of this as the best Batman story ever. The story is not bad because it has good moments, but it shouldn't be called the best one ever. What The Dark Knight Returns was and should always be remembered as is iconic and groundbreaking. It was the first graphic novel ever created. It was the first comic book story printed in glossy paper. Back then, comics were always printed in newspaper sheets, making it look really awful. Imagine holding in your hands for the first time a Batman comic with proper magazine paper. That would have been fantastic. What Frank Miller did was not excellent or outstanding. It was different, shocking, and unique. It was quite original. He exaggerated everything about Batman to create a new concept, and that is why The Dark Knight Returns has become so influential. But I also feel that that's a bit of a problem. Many young creators like Scott Snyder and Zack Snyder are so influenced by Frank Miller that they think it's okay to imitate what he did. When you look at things like The Justice Buster and the Batman v Superman movie, you know there's something wrong, and that is imitation. The Dark Knight Returns is not a literary masterpiece. It was something unusual. It is not outstanding. It was different. It's not the best Batman story ever, but it is the most historically significant. The new creators should always remember that. They should strive to create something unique and groundbreaking, because if all they do is copy what other people did, we will not get another Dark Knight Returns again.